Au e nā li e o ke au I hala. E nāna mai a mākou nā pula pula o nei au e holo nei. E ala mai kākou e nā kini, nā mamo ka aina aloha. Aloha wale ia aina ko kākou kahua. Au e ka ili e ka hoʻopuehu ia nei. E pai hou ia ka pōhaku I paa maila ke kahua hale hou. No kākou e nā pua e hoʻolulu ai. E ala e ka I, ka mahi, ka palena. I mua aloa a ka lei o ka lana kila.
Kaulana nā pua o Hawaii Kupa'a mahope o ka aina Hiki mai ka elele o ka loko ino Palapala anunu me ka pākaha Pane mai Hawaii I moku o ke ave Kokua nā honoa o Pi'ilani Ka ko'o mai kaua I o mano Kauku me ke oni o ka kui hewa I ka pulima Aole, 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 hiu Maluna o ka pepa o ka enemi Ho'ohui aina ku ai hewa Ku ai hewa I ka pono sivila a o ke kanaka Aole mākoa I mina mina Aole, 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 hiu I ka pu'utala o ke au puni Ua lava mātou I ka pōhaku I ka pōhaku I ka ai ka mahao o ka aina Mahope mako o Lili'ulani Mahope, 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 hiu Aloha a e ka pono o ka aina Haina ia mai ana ka puana Haina ia mai O ka poe I aloha I ka aina Kaulana nā pua, kaulana nā pua, kaulana nā pua e Kaulana nā pua, kaulana nā pua, kaulana nā pua e Kaulana nā pua, kaulana nā pua, kaulana nā pua, hey!
Aloha kakahi aka kako e nā poe aloha aina o ko Hawaii Pai Aina 127 years of injustice, illegal occupation, war crimes, and devastation in the first independent nation state in the entire Pacific, the Hawaiian Kingdom. Aloha e nā ali'i o Mano Kalani Po o Kauai, aloha e nā ali'i o Ahu Nui a Lua, aloha e nā ali'i o Maui Nui a Kama, aloha e nā ali'i o Moku o Keawe. We have an exciting show for you this week. QLT, Queen Iliʻokalani Trust. We have some U.S. Surgeon General. We have Cookie's Corner with the weather, David Schmige, and her corner of knowledge. Kingdom Kale rounding out the welfare state, Kumukini, and how Anakalalale learned Hawaiian. The Mana Olelo is next, and right after that, Kupuna Pono with Nauru, Protect Human Rights, Solomon, Island Land Disputes, and Fiji Government Censorship. Now for the Mana Olelo. The Mana Olelo for today is Aole Hilina'i. So when you type in the word a'ole, no, not, never, to be none, to have none, commonly pronounced a'ale. A'ole loa, certainly not, not at all. I should say not, never. A'ole loa ane oe I hele I hilo. Have you ever been to Hilo? A'ole paha. So the word a'ole combined with the word hilina'i, and hilina'i translates to believe, trust, to learn, on, rely on, trust, confidence. Olelo ho'oholo hilina'i, vote of confidence. So a'ole hilina'i means no trust, no belief, no rely on, no confidence. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about Moku Aina o Hawaii, or the current government that's in place named the state of Hawaii. We no can trust because of their decisions and lies that have been continuing for 127 years, but specifically for this government since 1959, since statehood, and more recently from the beginning of this COVID-19 epidemic that they just allowed to get out of control. We had it under control, and they let it get out of control to where the U.S. Surgeon General had to come on to Hawaii to talk to these guys. So the mana olelo, let's try it everybody, say a'ole. That's right, a'ole. And you combine a'ole with hilina'i. Olelo mai, hilina'i, trust. Now let's combine them, a'ole hilina'i, no trust. A'ole hilina'i I kamoku aina, no trust the state of Hawaii. A'ole hilina'i I ka po'e puni, do not trust liars. So with that and our mana olelo a'ole hilina'i, let's look at the hot topic of the week, which is our Queen Lili'uokalani Trust and the massive layoffs of Hawaiian employees that worked for the trust to address the war crimes and social issues that our people has been dealing with. So what's happening with QLT? Well, what's happening is QLT, Queen Lili'uokalani Trust lands, are being sold on a massive amount to where they had to lay off so many employees that the services they currently serve our indigent, our orphaned Hawaiians will now be impacted tremendously. And who do they hire? They hire Alan Arakawa. Who is this guy? This guy worked for A&B Properties. This guy worked for D&B Horton. This guy has been working for the Big Five, selling off lands in his resume. So why would you trust or hire someone who sells off land illegally? Because we all know all of the land titles are fraudulent because there is no clear transfer in title. So how can we trust the trust, a'ole hilina'i, when you hire guys like Alan Arakawa to sell off our trust lands? Where is the trust? I see no trust. I hear no trust. I feel no trust. So a'ole hilina'i. Next is yours truly, Governor Ige, Dige, Schmige, not keeping control of the COVID-19 pandemic in the Hawaiian Kingdom. Why, when we had the lowest numbers, was leading the nation of America by having the lowest numbers, and just recently They don't hire no contact tracers when they said they had enough contact tracers. And then the next day pop up, there's 100 contact tracers. And then the next week, here comes U.S. Surgeon General to scold these guys because of the lies, mismanagement, and fraud of using the CARE Act monies that is supposed to be attributed to helping the COVID pandemic. But really, I think, Kako, they're saving the money to give it out to their friends, to give it out to their families, to share those monies in their pockets. Because why wouldn't you have a prepared home base of contact tracers to contact everyone in the communities prior to everyone getting sick with COVID-19? So mahalo to the Surgeon General for coming down here and setting these guys straight and alerting everyone that we're in the red now, Kako. So be safe, don't go anywhere, wear your mask, social distance, and be safe, Kako. So that's the hot topics of the news that I have for the week. Now we're going to move to Nauru and protect human rights with Kupuna Pono.
Aloha Kako. Before we go to the international news, I'm going to give you an update of the South Pacific COVID-19 status for this morning, August 29th. As we look to Aotearoa, they have a total of 1,727 cases. American Samoa is 0, Cook Island 0. As we look at Guam, there's a spike. Now they have 1,287 cases. As we look at Fiji, they're holding steady at just 28 cases. As we look at the occupied state, the Hawaiian Kingdom, there's a huge surge. The total number is 7,830. And we can look at this whole situation because of the U.S. occupation in Hawaii for 127 years. And the occupying government is not doing their job, and so there's a huge surge of letting people come in to the occupied state. We also have the presence of the U.S. Military on various islands. So if you look at the current numbers in the Hawaiian Kingdom, we are by far, we have the most C-19 cases in the Pacific. As we look at the another kingdom, the Kingdom of Tonga, they have 0 cases. We look at Kiribati, it's 0 cases. Marshall Islands, 0 cases. Micronesia, 0 cases. Nauru, 0 cases. New Caledonia, they're holding steady at just 23 cases. As we look at Niue, they have 0 cases. The Northern Mariana, they have a small spike of just 2 additional cases. So the total in Nauru is 56 cases. As we look at Palau, they have 0 cases. Papua New Guinea, they have a rise of a little over 100 new cases for the total amount of 43 cases. As we look at the Solomon Islands, they have 0 cases. We have also at Tahiti, they have a surge of a total number of 420 cases. And as we round out Tokelau and Tuvalu, they have 0 cases. So this is the latest update for the South Pacific C-19 data. As we move along to other news, we're looking at Nauru. Their headlines is Nauru to protect basic human rights. Amnesty International is urging Nauru's government to take action to protect the independence of judiciary and the rights of fair trial. So they have a lot of abuse among the native people living in Nauru. As we move on to another news topic, it's the Solomon Islands, and it's Solomon tribes resolve land disputes. The police in Solomon Islands says two tribes have agreed not to escalate a long-standing land dispute. And finally, we have some news out of Fiji. Fiji government and church clash over pulled broadcast. Fiji government minister Frank Binimaru intervention to stop debates being broadcast between a self-described movement and church groups has been heavily criticized. So this is your South Pacific news for August 28th. Aloha.
Mahalo, kupuna pono. Now let's go to get some ono ono cookie knowledge from Auntie Cookie's Corner. Go ahead, Auntie Cookie. Mute.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Mahalo, Kini. All right, our sunrise this morning was at 6:04. The sunset this evening is at 6:37. We also have our high tide that was early this morning with the low tide coming in at 6:27. And this evening, our low tide will happen at 8:59 p.m. And so there's a little bit of clouds. We're in the high upper 80s. The winds are northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and it'll be somewhat hotter than normal feeling because of the how we're changing over. Our moon is changing on the moon calendar. So right now on the Hawaiian moon calendar, we're in Mohalu. And at noontime, it'll change to Hua. And this is the first night that the circular form of the moon shows. It is believed to be the first of 4 Hawaiian full moons. This night, the moon will be egg-shaped. Besides meaning eggs, hua also means fruit and seed, and many believe it to be bountiful for the Aina and for our ocean. And also, today is a good day for fishing, planting uala, ipo, and fruit plants. This night was also sacred to Lono. So we must be mindful of this. Follow the moon calendar. Everyone can do that. It's so important. And so my topic of the week I'm going to share with you is it's from the Star Advertiser, and it was published on Monday, 8/24, and it's titled Hawaii Governor David Ige to address open records request. Okay, so my quote out of the article is when the suspension, now this is Governor David Egghead Ige. When the suspension is lifted and government employees are able to work in their offices and normal government operations have resumed, your request will be addressed. He also goes on to say Governor Ige's office declined, now his office staff declined to provide copies of communication about coronavirus that his staff exchanged with the Department of Health, the tourism industries, and other organizations. Come on now, what are they hiding? What is Governor Ige hiding? The CARES Act money being funneled through his office, distributed to whom? Can I say rail? Can I say other monies that are being rerouted into pockets, maybe, just like Kalaniakia said? Of course, somebody hiding something. Who knows? Okay, so now the words of the week. We have 2 words this week that I want to educate you on. The first word being indigenous. Indigenous originated or occurring naturally in a particular place, native. Indigenous was often used to identify plants and animals, and Aboriginal was used to identify people. Now, remember that. Okay, Aboriginal's definition is inhabiting or existing in a land from its earliest times or from before the arrival of colonists. A people first arrive in a particular region. For example, the native population of the Hawaiian Islands is called Aboriginal Hawaiians. A full-blooded Aboriginal Hawaiian is a Kanaka Maoli. A part Aboriginal Hawaiian is Hapa Haole. You can also refer to vehevehe.org for Hapa, the meaning of Hapa, and the meaning of Haole. Like for me, I'm a Hapa Haole Aboriginal. And so I've also found in the Hawaiian Kingdom blog, I'm going to read to you. It was published on February 26, 2016, and it's titled, Natives of the Hawaiian Islands are not indigenous people, they are Aboriginal. So I took a quote out of the article. It's the very last quote. The Hawaiian Kingdom was not invaded or colonized by the United States before it became a state under international law, and therefore its people cannot be considered indigenous. Instead, international law protects and maintains the continuity of the state despite it being under an illegal and prolonged occupation since the Spanish-American War, which is very similar to Germany's occupation of Luxembourg from 1914 to 1918 during World War I. So we need to be mindful of our words when we're speaking, because I notice a lot of people who maybe be misinformed between indigenous and aboriginal. We who are born here in the Hawaiian Kingdom are aboriginal. We're not indigenous. And I know the confusion is there because our Native American brothers and sisters on the continent, they use the word indigenous, and it's because it ties into federal government dollars that they've received from the US government. For us, we have an ongoing illegal occupation here, 127 years and counting. But all of us are waking up, and so we need to be mindful of the words that we're speaking. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me here on Facebook. And mahalo for listening to Cookie's Corner. I'm Auntie Cookie, and coming up next is Kingdom Kale. So enjoy Brother Kale's Kingdom Kale segment. Aloha.
Aloha kakahea kakako, everyone, and welcome to my little corner of the world. Today, I wanted to talk about the welfare state because there is a tremendous amount of misunderstanding of what form of government the Hawaiian Kingdom had when they flourished and before the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. And at that time, there wasn't a term given for that form of government. Yes, it was a monarchy, but the term wasn't developed until around the 1940s. And so after talking to experts, finally figured out that, or I finally figured out that the Hawaiian Kingdom was a welfare state. And so what is the welfare state? The welfare state refers to a type of governing in which the national government plays a key role in the protection and promotion on the principles of equality, of opportunity, equitable distribution of wealth, the public responsibility for those unable to avail themselves of minimal provisions of a good life, which includes health and taking care of the kupuna. And in today's world, in America, Social Security mandated. And what's so interesting is that the Hawaiian Kingdom had developed this form of protection for the Hawaiian Kingdom subjects. And so there wasn't a term that was given back during the Hawaiian Kingdom days, but in 1940, it became understood that that form of governing is a welfare state. Most modern countries practice some elements of what is considered the welfare state. But with that said, it's frequently used in a derogatory sense because the term welfare, thinking that, oh, this is for poor people and so forth. No. In governing terms, a welfare state means the definition that I just read is a way of governing in which the state or an established group of social institutions provide basic economic security for its citizens, and not only economic security, but health and welfare. Okay, by definition, in a welfare state, the government is responsible for the individual and the social welfare of its citizens. So this should sound very familiar of what the Hawaiian Kingdom did, especially when we take a look at the Ali'i trusts that were set up. Okay, we have the Queen's Health Systems that was set up by Queen Emma, and she also set up Kapi'olani hospitals. And that system was set up for the health and welfare of the Hawaiian Kingdom subjects. And then you have Queen Liliuokalani Trust that was set up to take care of the children, Hawaiian children. And you have Lunalilo Trust that was set up to take care of the kupuna. And then you have Kamehameha Schools that was set up for the education of the Hawaiian children. And so our ali'i were so far ahead. Bernie Sanders wasn't even born when our ali'i had already put this together. And this is not a form of socialism. And people tend to mistake that. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more later on. And just wanted to share that with you. Remember the term welfare state. It is not a bad term. It is a good term that the Hawaiian Kingdom monarchy had set up and were decades ahead of their time. And only today we have guys like Bernie Sanders and so forth now talking about that same form of programs for the United States. And coming up next, the awesome Hawaiian language teacher, Kumu Kini.
Aloha nui kākou, pehea kākou I ke ia la, kia kakahiaka nani nei. O wau ho'i ke ia o kini ka lau e I ka uluwehi o ka ʻaina ka awa. Me e noho ana ke kakahiaka olu ma wai kahe ma puna. Me ka mahele ka lei o ka naʻauao e nāna ana kākou, pehea kākou e a'o ai I ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. I kēlā pule aku nei, ua lohe kākou I ke kupuna e paipai ana ia kākou e a'o a e ʻōlelo I ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi no ka mea, ne pa'a ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi a'oe e ʻoiaʻiʻo ana kau ʻike, e piha ana, ʻaʻole no e hapapu. Nui o ʻoukou I ka ʻana mai me mākou no kekahi lālā o ka ʻohana I hoʻopaʻi ʻia no ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ʻana, a I ʻole he ʻohana paha, he hoʻokahi haneli pakeneka Hawaiʻi, akā no naʻe ʻaʻale hiki no ke ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. A he mea maʻamau kēia ma waena o kākou ka poʻe Hawaiʻi. Like a like no ko kākou mau moʻolelo I loko o kākou ʻohana. No laila, paipai wau iā ʻoukou e palapala I kēia mau moʻolelo o ko ohana e ka ana aku me ka o ko po'e ohana he mea ko'i a wai ho'i. O ka poʻe Hawaiʻi ma mua, he aupuni ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi wale no mākou. Kala mai, ʻaʻole ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi wale no. Nui nā ʻōlelo ma Hawaiʻi nei. Akā o ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ka ʻōlelo kāhua, ka ʻōlelo aupuni no hoʻi o Hawaiʻi. Hiki i kēia la aue no hoʻi e. ʻAʻole hiki no iaʻu ke hōʻike i kēia hōʻike me ka unuhi ʻole ʻana no ʻoukou. I ka mea e ʻōlelo nei ma ka ʻōlelo Amelika. Hila no ke la ea. A oia no ka ʻōlelo a kēlā kupuna. Hila no kākou ʻaʻole hiki ke ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. ʻōlelo naʻe oia, hila ma luna o lākou iho nā kupuna. No ka mea ʻaʻole lākou iaʻo i ka lākou mau keiki i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. Keia mau kupuna pehea la aue no hoʻi e. O lākou ka mea i hoʻopaʻi ʻia no ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ʻana, e like me ana ke Mary ka lehua ka leipoa i wehewehe mai ʻoia kākau ʻoia e 5 haneli maulaina. ʻAʻole ʻoia e ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ma luna o ka papa ʻeleʻele. A ua lohe pū kākou ia kupuna ka wahi paula, wehewehe ana ʻoia no hili ʻia kona 5 no kana ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ʻana ma ke kula. A ʻōlelo nā kupuna, hila ma luna o lākou. Aue no hoʻi. Akā, maopopo iā ʻoe nā wai kahewa, ʻaʻole no nā kupuna kahewa, nā Amelika kahewa. E hoʻopili ana wau, nā Amelika hui pū ʻia kahewa, nā lākou i wipa a hili i ka ʻōlelo mai nā kupuna mai a kākou mai. A nā lākou no kahewa, no kau ʻike ʻole i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. Kau hānai ʻole ʻia ma ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi i kēia lā. Ike nui ʻia pau nā ʻōlelo ʻoiwi like ʻole o ka honua. A kekahi mau poʻe ʻoiwi, ʻaʻole no lākou kākoʻo i ka palapala ʻana i ka lākou ʻōlelo ʻoiwi ponoʻi. Poʻomaikaʻi wale kākou, ua palapala nā poʻe kupuna Hawaiʻi i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi i loko o nā nupepa Hawaiʻi kahiko, i loko o nā moʻomanaʻo pilikino, a me nā palapala o nā halepule a me nā aupuni. Poʻomaikaʻi kākou i nā polokalamu e like me ka leo Hawaiʻi. O Kumu Lale Kimura, Nana no i Nina Wele a walaʻau pu me nā poʻe kupuna i hiki a kākou ke lohe i nā leo kupuna. I kēia la nui nā ala e hiki a kākou ke aʻo i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi, loaʻa nā kula e like me ka punana leo, nā kula kaiapuni, nā kula kaia ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi, a hiki ke kula nui, hiki ke loaʻa i ka palapala laiʻula, ka palapala kauka ma ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. Loaʻa nā papa ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi manuahi ma nā kaiāulu, a loaʻa pū ka poʻe. Kakaʻi kahi paha a ka loaʻa pū ka poʻe ma nā kaiāulu hiki ke ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. I ke pū nui ʻia kēia mau lā, ke komo nui o ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi i loko o nā halau hula, nā hui mahi ʻai, nā hui lua no hoʻi, ke ulu nei ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. Poʻomaikaʻi kākou i kia mau kumu waiwai, i hiki a kākou ke aʻo i kākou ʻōlelo ʻoiwi ponoʻi. Nā kākou ke kuleana e hoʻohana i kēia mau kumu waiwai. Ua ʻike paha ʻoe i loko o kēia aupuni nei, kēia aupuni noho hewa ma lalo o Amelika, he ʻōlelo kūhelu, ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ma Hawaiʻi nei. I hiki a ʻoe ke kākau a ʻōlelo i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi e like me kou makemake. Ma ka wā o ko Hawaiʻi pai ʻaina, ka wā o ke aupuni Hawaiʻi no hoʻi, o ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ka ʻōlelo aupuni, ka ʻōlelo maʻamau o Hawaiʻi a pau. I kēia mau lā kākaʻi kahi kākou, mau no, kākaʻi kahi kākou poʻe hiki ke ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. Inā hiki nā kupuna ke aʻo i ka heluhelu a me ke kākau ʻana i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi ma kekahi wā pōkole loa, hiki no ia kākou ke aʻo i ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi a hiki no ia kākou ke ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. A ʻohe mea e ʻālai ana koi no ʻoe, o ʻoe iho no. No leila, e holohe kākou I ka leo o kumu lale kimura. E wehe ana oia ia kākou, pehea oia ia oi ka olelo Hawaii.
Nui na ino ko mahalo I ka ho'olohe mau I ka olelo Kelemania ma ke la aina. Ano mina no wau no ka lohe ole o ka olelo Hawaii ine I ke ia aina o kākou. A hino e like no me ko ka aina o Kelemania.
Polo lei no. Polo lei. Ano a apo oi makia o lelo. Pehea la oi ia oi I ka olelo Hawaii. Ka olelo makua hine hoi.
O hino a apo.
O he hala ka mea.
Lohe wale no ke ia mau pepe au I ka olelo. Pe no ka olelo Kelemania no ka lohe mau no I ka olelo Kelemania a pa no. Pe no me ka olelo makua hine. Mai nā kupuna mai nā lākou no I au mai au ka olelo makua hine ka olelo Hawaii. Nā ko kupuna wahine o Eliza Purdy. Olelo Hawaii wale no oia. Nā manawa a pau kanui o ka manawa o he namu I ka olelo haole. Ke la maula ole wau no nui ke olelo makua hine. Nuku me ia manawa o he ho ona ia nā mākua ia mākou nā kamali I ke kula e a opono I ka olelo haole. A me nā mea e pili ana I ke ia au hou. Ke au haole no keia. A ho ona ia nā mākua e ho ona au ma nā mea e pili ana I ka wā o ka haole.
A ole no oi lawi I papa olelo Hawaii.
A ole no hiki ku uhele ana I ke kula o ka mea meha. O ka ukumu makamai no ke ia kumu o Mrs. Dorothy Kahana Nui nana no ia umai ia u I ke kula o ka mea meha no nā makahiki e kolu. I ke kula nui no o Hawaii ma noa ma leila no oia I ho mauai I kāna a o ana mai iau I ka olelo makua hine I nana no I wehe he pono mai iau ke ano o ka olelo Hawaii. Mamua no o ke la ano hapa wale no ka uho o maupopo ana I ka olelo Hawaii. Ahe mo a kākaloa nā mea a pau o nā mea e pili ana I ka olelo.
Ai lak.
No leila, ua lohe kākou ia kumu lale kimura e wehe ana pehea oia I a o ai ka olelo Hawaii. Ua a o oia ma muli o kona noho ana me kona poʻe kūpuna. Pēlā pū kona komo ana I ka papa olelo Hawaii. No leila, ʻelua ano e hiki a kākou ke a o I ka olelo Hawaii. Oia hoʻi ka noho pū ana, ka launa pū ana me ka poʻe olelo Hawaii wale no. Pēlā pū ki komo ana ma nā papa olelo Hawaii. No leila, mahalo nui I keia mau momi makamai, keia mau haʻawina, wai o ko kākou poʻe kūpuna, a ole kākou e poina, e noke mau kākou, e imi mau, e aʻo mau, a e komo ka olelo Hawaii I loko ko kākou ola I ke lā me keia lā. I ola ka olelo Hawaii. Mahalo nui a kākou, e hoʻi kākou me DJ Derbs.
Poe aloha aina keia na polakalamu e lua hope loa o Hawaiian Kingdom Hero and Hawaiian Kingdom Violator. Stay tuned. We're rounding out our show with the last two segments where we choose who our Hawaiian Kingdom champion or hero is and the Hawaiian Kingdom violator or criminal for the week. And last section, Makahana Ka'ike, but don't leave until we sing the Hawaiian Kingdom National Anthem, Hawaii Pono'i, 3 verses. So, my Hawaiian Kingdom violator for this week has got to be Alan Arakawa because he became the vice president for selling off Queen Liliuokalani Trust lands, being trained in the Big Five, of learning how to fraudulently sell our Hawaiian lands, specifically Queen Kalani Trust and the family lands, to other people. And my Hawaiian Kingdom hero is the U.S. Surgeon General for flying all the way from Washington, D.C. to the Hawaiian Kingdom to scold Governor Eeg Head and Mayor Kirky Caldwell for their terrible, terrible response to this recent spike of COVID-19. Kupuna Pono, you up?
Well, as we look at this ongoing U.S. occupation of 127 years, what we have is ongoing disarray in the Hawaiian Kingdom, and it looks like for the occupying government and its various agencies, it's business as usual, and let's make money first. People health is second.
Mahalo Kupuna Pono for reminding us of the focus that we should be on the Hawaiian Kingdom and the long-running illegal occupation. Auntie Cookie, you ready with your Hawaiian Kingdom violator?
I am. My Hawaiian Kingdom violator for the week is, of course, David Egghead Ige. Oh my goodness, what more can he do other than put the lasso around his own neck? So that's my violator of the week. I just added a couple heroes. Of course, Dr. David Kianusai, because I'm one of his haumana. He's my Hawaiian Kingdom hero. And also, I'd like to mahalo Kumukini for doing her Olelo segment, because when we hear our kupuna speaking, I get chicken skin, and because I've heard it a few times before because she shared it, but when you hear them speaking our Olelo, our Hawaiian language, which we all should be learning little by little, and we can, just like Kumukini said. So my Hawaiian Kingdom hero is Kumukini for bringing that back to all of us, and our kupuna, whose recorded voices just run deep within us, is reconnecting us. So I aloha them for those recordings on Ulukau, and for Kumukini for reminding us and reconnecting us, because it's so important. And I just feel every week when I hear them, I get chicken skin, and good kind. It feels so good. I love that. And so those are my choices for this week. And enjoy the rest of the show. Share the link now.
Mahalo, Auntie Cookie, for your morsels of Ono delicious cookies of knowledge. Kingdom Kale, you up?
The violators that I have for this week are all the violators that have ignored the stay safe and the protocols of wearing your mask, keeping social distancing, and at the same time avoiding big, huge group gatherings. You all know who you are. You are violating. You are violating the Hawaiian Kingdom because you're putting all of us at risk. You're putting our ohana, you're putting our kupuna, you're putting our keiki, and you're literally putting the Hawaiian Kingdom at risk when you refuse to take these safety precautions. And we're not asking a lot. And these violators, when they say that, oh, they have their rights to do, bullshit. You don't have those rights. Not when it comes to protecting our ohana, and not when it comes to protecting our kupuna, our keiki, and all of our lahui here in these islands. So wear your mask, social distance, and pay attention, and let's take care of each one of us.
That's right. You tell them, Kingdom Kale. You scold those violators out there. Wear your mask, keep your 6 foot social distancing, and keep our kupuna safe in the Hawaiian Kingdom. So before we hit the last segment, Makahana Kaike, in doing one learns, Kumukini, who's your Hawaiian Kingdom hero or Hawaiian Kingdom violator for this week?
My Hawaiian Kingdom hero, or Me'e Hawaii, this week is Anake Ke Kuhi Kanaka Ole Kana Hele and Halau o Hi'a. They just finished their 6th series of Ka'au creations, doing storytelling and just reminding us of our mo'olelo and our kuleana and our connection to our community and our world around us. And you can learn so much about Olelo Hawaii that's in there, because all the mo'olelo and all of these chants, they're in the Hawaiian language, even though they're explaining it in English or in the American language. We can learn so much about our kuleana, our health, and what we're supposed to be doing and how we connect to everything around us. So mahalo nui halau ohia. It is on Facebook if you have not checked it out. It was live sessions, but you can go in and watch. Anake ke kuhi kanaka ole a me halau ohia. Mahalo nui ya oko pakahi a pau. Aloha.
Mahalo kumukini no kela mo'olelo e pili ana ka halau o ke kuhi. Aloha nui. Pehea
Halau ohia.
kako a halau o hi'a. Maika ike la. Makahana ka ike this week is for Hawaiian History Month, starting off with September 2nd, Queen Liliuokalani's birthday. For me this week, fly your high Hawaii and fly it inverted. Don't fly your high Hawaii right side up. Fly your high Hawaii inverted to show the communities that's living in the islands and around the world that the Hawaiian Kingdom is still in distress for 127 years. Kupuna Pono, what's your makahana ka'ike for our kaiaulu o ko Hawaii Pai'aina?
What we need to do is actually get back to learning and understanding our mother tongue, the Hawaiian language.
Mahalo kupuna pono. A'o mai I ka olelo Hawaii. Auntie Cookie, you ready for your makahana ka'ike?
I am. So my advice or my manaka hanaka ike. I'm going to. This is a tongue twister. Oh my goodness, is understanding the differences of the words that I'm teaching you. Really, really take it in and learn these terminologies because it's so important. They're trigger words on Hawaiian Kingdom law level and international level, and that's mine for this week.
Mahalo, Cookie, for your makahana ka'ike. Kumukini. Heha ko ike no keia pule.
No Laila, Elike me anakala lale, just like Kumu Larry Kimura. We need to A'o ika olelo Hawaii. How can we do that? Find a class. There are free classes. There are classes at the community colleges. Find a Hawaiian language class to learn the olelo Hawaii, or surround yourself with people who speak Hawaiian. We have so many resources out there. Kani Aina, where I found all of these recordings. Go and listen. The more you surround yourself with people who speak Hawaiian, Queen Liliuokalani, Hau'oli Lahanau ya Queen Liliuokalani, she is a Hawaiian language speaker. She wrote her mele and everything. Maka olelo Hawaii. Learn your language. Take a class and surround yourself with people who olelo Hawaii. Every day, learn every day.
Mahalo kumukini no kou makahana ka'ike. Kingdom Kale, you up? Kingdom Kale?
I'm up. Makahana Kaike, go to the HawaiianKingdom.org blog. All of you need to use that as a resource. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can go to the Hawaiian Kingdom blog because you will be able to get answers, especially on the history, the politics, and what is actually going on today in the Hawaiian Kingdom. And you need to be brought up to speed on everything going on, because when the Hawaiian Kingdom government is back in power, you will need to be knowledgeable of how the Hawaiian Kingdom functions and your responsibilities in the Hawaiian Kingdom. HawaiianKingdom.org/blog. Go to it.
Mahalo Kingdom Kale for your morsel of makahana ka'ike this week. Don't forget, subscribe, HawaiianKingdomNow.com. The link is on our Facebook page. But before we leave, Kako, the most important part is this part, is we all, across all of the islands, will sing to manifest and pray for the return of our Hawaiian Kingdom right now through singing and connecting all of our voices in the Hawaiian Kingdom National Anthem called Hawaii Pono'i, that was composed by King Kalakaua in 1874, and he took it around the world to show the world that we are a strong, loving, caring nation from the middle of the Pacific, the Hawaiian Kingdom nation state. E alamai kako, e hi meni kako, Hawaii Pono'i.